what do you consider the role of the editor? Jeff, we'll start with you.
Well, I'll give you a few definitions that I've been given over the years. Well, first of all, we're there to cut out the naughty bits. We're there to cut out the action, right, and to cut out the slates, basically. So, what is the role of an editor? Oh my God. It's too big a question. I'm not sure I can answer that. Mm-hmm. When the script is written, it's always envisioned in a certain way, in the writer's mind, in the director's mind, in the producer's mind. And then they go on location, and they don't have the location. It rains, it's not sunny. They didn't get the cast they wanted. And so you're cutting a different film than what everybody envisioned right from the beginning.
Yeah, just trying to take inspiration from what you see and what you can bring to it. And just keep it like a really loose, that's what I try to do, is keep it a really collaborative thing. And like when I do my first pass on it, it's like, even the movie I'm cutting now, like there was a couple shots that I knew the director wanted in the movie, but I just didn't think they worked, so I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to put them in yet. And then we'll do it together and try it and see how it works, and you know, and just helping shape the thing and just building it together. Because as you said, it's not going to be exactly as they envision. And I also try to, like, I'll go with my instincts and cut it one way, but then I'll also force myself to cut it some different ways, because partially because I know those conversations will come up later, like, well, did you try doing, and you're like, yeah, and then you can look at it, that sort of thing.
Great.
For me, the assembly is a huge part of putting a film together. I think for me it's the most important part, and I know there are people out there who say, oh, you know, you get someone to assemble it for you and then come in, and I could never do that, actually, because I have to see everything happen, everything that's been shot. In my first assembly, and I will not call it an editor's cut because it's not my cut, it's an assembly, and it's pretty much as per script. I very rarely take things out because I think that the director needs to see what they've shot, what they intended, and I may have feelings that no, this doesn't work, but here I've given it my best shot. And what it becomes for me is again asking questions. So what did you think? You know, and so it helps to start a conversation. It's part of a process. So I'm personally pretty sticky about an assembly being pretty close to what was written in the script.
The first time you see those dailies, I think, is absolutely critical, and I try to remember how I responded to something the very first time that I saw it. Because after you've screened it 90 times, you start to second guess, well, maybe this take isn't quite as good as I thought it was.
17 movies I shot in North Bay now, and it's like, I've been going up there. But then the last time I didn't, because I like to be with the director. It's a really great thing to do. Like I like to, yep. And one thing that I didn't mention is, like, the world's greatest advantage is screening dailies with the director, which I rarely get to do. But that's like to me, that is the greatest thing, because you can sit there and go, like, do you like that? But, you know, at least once, just to get a feel.
You asked why does it affect me? It's huge, the difference it makes. If I've been on set while they were shooting a scene, then I can't look at this. When I see the dailies, it's like I know that the director just had a fight with the lead just before they did this take.
Yeah. And
that he was pissed off, and the actor was pissed off, and, you know, don't use this take. But that might be the best take.
Yeah.
You know, because they were angry. It might give you something that, and so that's what I've got in my frame, and that's what I want to be judging, not what was going on.
Like, this happened to me for the first time, where I got to know one of the actors because we're in the hotel, and I realized halfway through the movie that I was I didn't like the guy very much, and I realized halfway through the movie I was cutting him to avoid his personal tics and things, but like maybe they worked like in the movie, right. And I had to really reprocess the way I worked on the film, and as attractive as it is to meet these, you know, stars, it's like the worst for me.
Truly.
It's just a horrible experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
It works the same way if you really like them too.
Yeah.
You cut for them, right?
Yeah.
It's like if if you think you're friends with one of them, or you have a crush on someone, it's like way too many close-ups. So it's like it's really.
It's absolutely true. I mean, I've had actors. It was so obvious that they were coming to see me, and little gifts.
It's like, totally real.
Make sure I get those close-ups. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Every director is different. I think I found my favorite process, and it seems to be with directors who are a bit more experienced, is they watch the assembly and we talk about stuff, and they'll send some notes, but then give me a bit more time, because when you're doing the assembly, you'll have all these impulses for moving things around or dropping dialogue here and there. But you still have to restrain yourself, because I do kind of agree with Teresa. They have to see. This is the movie you wrote and went out and shot, sort of thing. Even though they know certain things probably didn't work anyway. But then I think to get the most out of your editor, they need some space to sort of be creative and explore some things on their own too, and then you come together. But even when you come together, I think it's good sometimes for the director to go out for the afternoon or a couple days even sometimes, and just not be in the room and let you work some stuff out, because when you have a good relationship, you can contribute while you're executing their ideas, but it's just like a human nature. Eventually it's harder for you to contribute on the same level and come up with your own ideas and explore them if you're executing someone else's ideas all the time. So I think there's a good balance to be had.
My experience is, I've dug a lot of films out, or carved a lot of films out, and to me the real satisfaction comes from when it starts to work. And then I almost feel like it's like you're on an exercise bike or something, and you're going at a pace and you're working and you're putting the puzzle together. But then there's a moment when it actually starts to work and you can see the film for the first time, like an oasis or like a clearing, And to me, that's the most satisfying point of making a film, is when suddenly you understand it completely. And then there's this really, really passionate burst of filmmaking that occurs, and then it goes into sort of repair work again. But to me, finding the film is the most satisfying thing that you can experience,
Why do I do what I do? Why do I edit? Because I've always been creative. I always wanted to be an artist of some kind. I studied still photography, but I thought I would starve being a still photographer. So I found my way into film, and apart from directing and possibly screenwriting, I think that editing is the most creative part of the filmmaking process. Yeah, I mean, I was joking about starting to edit when editing machines were driven by steam, but yeah, back on. I have been through. I worked in film, worked in videotape, went to nonlinear, and now digital nonlinear. I mean, there's absolutely no way that I would go back. It's the technology definitely makes me a better editor, because being able to access the material much more readily, being able to store multiple cuts, it's just a much more efficient way of editing. I mean, it's hard for me even to imagine, and this is the way I used to edit, and when I tell other people that never experienced working in film, it's like when we used to do film cuts, we would do a cut and then say, okay, you're going to go on to do your next cut. You take apart the first one to do the second one. So the first one disappears. There's no going back, right? And this is what people who are working in digital nonlinear today just can't get their head around. It's like, So it's like if I took a sequence apart because it wasn't working, tried it a second way and say, oh, it was better the way it was before, then it's like, oh man, how did I have it before? And you have to reconstruct it. So it's definitely better.
When I first got out of school, I wanted to work in film, and I just felt like I didn't know enough about storytelling, and I thought storytelling of film, and I thought the best place for me to go is the cutting room, and I've been there ever since, pretty much. A little bit of directing on this, a few of my own small projects, but I enjoy it. I like it, and it's challenging, and you always meet new people, and I invested a lot of time becoming an editor, and so here I am. Well, I think, like I said in the panel, I think it's very hard now for assistants to get that kind of apprenticeship. It was such a luxury for me to sit in the back of a cutting room and feed the editor trims as he was making changes and listen to the conversation that was going on with the producer and the director. So I think assistants now really have to make their own opportunities. But the luxury of the digital gear that we have now, working with Final Cut or Avid, it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do. You can see dissolves. You can add a sound effect. You can put a piece of music in. It's much more instantaneous. When I was cutting film, because you don't want to have a whole ton of false cuts in the image, I really have to stop and think about why I was going to cut there. And so I was much more focused on why I was cutting in a certain place. With the digital gear, you can cut anywhere you want. That doesn't make it necessarily a good thing, but you actually, in a way, have a lot more freedom to play with material.